we're going to allow Johanna the chance to welcome everybody to the downtown.
Okay, let's start recording, please. Thank you.
I would like to welcome our esteemed president, Dr. Pagan, and our vice provost, Dr. Gonzalez, our provost, Dr. Gonzalez, and our vice provost, Dr. Clark, on behalf of the Tempe faculty and Senate. We want to thank you for joining us and running our Senate meeting.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so hopefully the mics are working. If not, Maria, just give us a heads up. Let's go ahead and go around and do our sound checks. So presumably downtown is working just fine. So we'll move over to the Polytechnic campus. Chris Kaiselka.
Good afternoon from Polytechnic. Hello, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Tempe campus, LaDawn Haglund.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are checking in from Tempe.
Thank you. And Mary Burleson from the West Campus.
This is Christina with IT. Mary's, I think, still on her way.
Okay, well, thank you, Christina, then, for being our acting president at the West Campus. So let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. All right, let's go ahead and proceed then to a quorum calculation question. Maria Coca.
Hey, everyone. So we're going to be launching the first poll officially to calculate quorum. The question reads, please select the campus you represent. A for downtown, B for Polytechnic, C for Tempe, D for West. Okay, a few more coming in. Okay, closing the poll. Thank you. We're gonna take a second quorum, a triangulation. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. This question should read, how are you joining us today? In person at my campus, in person not my campus, or via Zoom? Okay, ending the poll. And we have quorum, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maria. We move on to item number 3, action on the minutes. The minutes for our January 31st, 2022 Senate meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved as have they been distributed. Item number 4, UAC Chair's report. Let me just share with you again, just for informational purposes, for those who are following along on the agenda, you will note item number 5, which is report from the university president. Again, just for your information, that is a standing agenda item. We're not expecting the president to be at this meeting, but should he show up, of course, we will give him time. Again, just by way of information. Now for the chair's report. So first of all, I want to just acknowledge we've almost made it to spring break. I don't think I ever understood as an undergraduate what those words meant to professors. But congratulations to you all for hanging in. I want to begin today by remembering our dear colleague, friend, mentor, Dr. Elsie Moore, who recently and unexpectedly passed away. She was, as I mentioned, a friend to many, a mentor to many, a colleague and an inspiration. Since 1981, she has been at Arizona State University. She received her BA from Elmhurst College and an MA and PhD from the University of Chicago. And throughout her career, she was devoted to faculty governance. She served as an active member of the University Senate, as president of the Tempe Academic Senate, and chaired several Senate committees, such as the Personnel Committee, the Clearinghouse Committee, the Grievance and Governance Committee. She served as chair of the School of Social Transformation and the African American Studies program before that, and devoted much of her service also to the Graduate College and other colleges in serving in a variety of leadership capacities. She was actively engaged in Arizona communities, providing leadership for the State of Black Arizona Advisory Council and to the Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Finally, I find it interesting in looking over her career that she helped lay the groundwork for our university response to the pandemic by serving on the University Pandemic Planning Committee starting in 2007. Visitation for her will be held this Friday, the 4th of March, 2022, from 5 to 7 p.m. at Green Acres Mortuary and Cemetery in Scottsdale. Maybe I think we will be able to post that information at the Senate website as well. The graveside service will be for family only. That will take place on the following day. We will miss Elsie, and we will cherish our association with her and her inspiration as well. I also want to recognize our Senator Spotlight for the month, Stephen Toth, who is a professor of modern European history at Arizona State University. He has written much on French penal institutions, both in France, but also abroad. His works have been translated into French, and though he is a historian, he has been published in many interdisciplinary journals, including Sociology, the History of Human Sciences, the Journal of European Study, the list goes on and on. He has been prolific in receiving grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities and the American Philosophical Society. And he's also worked as a consultant with the Australian government on its application to include the convict sites in UNESCO World Heritage List. And he's been an expert commentator of National Geographic Asia documentary, as well as other efforts. His courses include Total War and Crisis of Modernity, Fascism in Europe, and the History of Genocide. So congratulations, Professor Toth, and thank you for your service to ASU and to the University Senate. Now, finally, just a few thoughts I want to share with you. It was about 35 years ago, as a first semester senior at Arizona State University, that I first began to contemplate the life of an academic and what it would mean to me that if I continued on the path that so fascinated my mind and illuminated my heart as well, as to continue my studies in graduate school and then to become a professor. And I have to confess to you, with all the wisdom of a what was I then, 20, 21-year-old, I look forward to a life of reading lots of books and thinking very big thoughts and sitting in comfy chairs as a professor. I never, ever considered that I would be a knowledge entrepreneur in a knowledge enterprise. This past meeting at the Arizona Board of Regents, it was a significant moment when President Crow, in his remarks to the regents, characterized and presented Arizona State University as the ASU public enterprise. And I want to spend a few moments just reflecting upon the significance of that. In our quest to meet the aspirations of our charter, we can no longer be arranged like a traditional university, certainly not the ones that I have ever studied in, including Arizona State University as it was many decades ago. We are now organized as a public enterprise, comprised of three different interrelated branches: the learning enterprise, the knowledge enterprise, and the academic enterprise. Our collective aspiration and aim with this new kind of organization is to not only educate the traditional college-age students, but to provide meaningful knowledge of public value to learners at every age. This faculty will always be the beating heart of this enterprise. But if we're to assume responsibility for the challenges of our time, that sets us on a course to engage with both local and global issues in ways that graduate school likely did not prepare us for. But this is the time, nonetheless, to seize this moment as academics, as colleagues, as university professors, to embrace learning and growing and discovery and evolution, as well as we grow as independent scholars, but as part of academic units and also as part of this university. I acknowledge that change can be daunting. Most of us never imagined that we'd be part of a public enterprise when we started our graduate school. I certainly did. but part of this dynamic endeavor that we're involved in, that we're engaged in, ASU is a public enterprise. The very nature of that concept, that organization, that organizing tool and framework encourage us to rethink how we produce and disseminate knowledge. As a public enterprise, we have the real potential to engage with industries, municipalities, and civic organizations to advance the public good in new and creative ways, in ways that are sorely needed. So for me, I cannot think of a more exciting place and a time to be a university professor and to be engaged in this work that we do as a university senate. As I said before, and I want to emphasize this again, and these are words directly from President Crow, the faculty will always be the beating heart of this enterprise. And as part of this enterprise, we need to work together with our administrative colleagues who are also full-time faculty as we retool and reconceptualize what we do as a university. And so I welcome this challenge as we move forward and we think about how we can more effectively address not only the needs of our communities, but also the work that we do as scholars as well. So I will conclude with those remarks. And now it is my pleasure to turn the time over to Provost Nancy Gonzalez, who is joining us today. Nancy.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. You always offer wonderful ideas for us to contemplate together, and you invite the participation of the whole academic community in the kinds of things that I know that I deal with as provost. And I really do appreciate that because you are the academic heart, but we all are in this together as we try to imagine a future where education plays different roles than we all understood when we were coming through college. So thank you for that. I'm going to not take too much time. I know we have a very full agenda, but I wanted to start by just acknowledging the conflict happening in Ukraine. The news and the images are just heart-wrenching, and we are dearly concerned for the citizens of the Ukraine and for democracy. This is a personal conflict for some of our own students. We have 22 students on campus from the Ukraine. We've been reaching out and making sure that we're available to support them in ways that is needed. But it's also personal to us because it is such a threat to democracy, free speech and free inquiry. But also it's personal to us because we have a family in the Ukraine in our partnership with the American University of Ukraine of Kyiv that we just launched this past summer. And we have been reaching out to them as well. We understand that our partners are safe and they're doing what they can to try to keep things moving along. I had the great privilege to actually travel to Kyiv this past June and to sign the contract committing to helping the Ukrainian nation pursue higher education at a way that would help them advance their country, advance their educational system, and really to support their efforts to become an independent democracy. So it's very, very sad to see where we are now. We've been speaking with the folks in the Ukraine, and they are absolutely committed to this fight. They absolutely will not surrender, and we stand in solidarity with them. And we'll continue to support when the time is right. We will continue to support our efforts to work with them to advance education. Being there and then the juxtaposition to where we are today really did strike me that we're so lucky to be in a place where we do have the opportunity and the privilege to advance education, to be part of a system where our ideas matter and that we can come together in the way that Eduardo was just talking about, to think about what kind of future should we be building together. So I just think that we should reflect and be grateful to be in the place that we are now, and grateful that we're in a position through some of our educational initiatives to be able to help other countries in the way that we're hoping to eventually with Ukraine. And I also think that we should reflect on the ways in which even the Senate and the coming together as senators and being part of the governance of the university is part of that advancing together and advancing as a democratic society. So anyway, I appreciate your service to our shared goals and all the ways that we're trying to advance. So I'm not going to say much more, but I'm happy to address any questions on any topics that you might want to raise for me today from the various campuses.
Let's go and do this. Let me, why
Yeah.
don't you stay there? I think this is on. Right here. It's not. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Downtown campus. Here's the downtown campus. Are there any questions for Provost Gonzalez?
And more information about what's gonna happen with them now. Where- where I wanted to see if there's-
Yeah, so we are evaluating it. We have always been very influenced by CDC guidelines, and as you know, those guidelines have shifted. So we're now in a phase of evaluating and watching, and we'll be, we'll make sure that we share decisions as those get made. But that things have shifted. I know you have Neil Woodbury I saw him on the screen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll be asking him questions of that as well. But that's where we're at now. No decisions made, but we're certainly wanting to be responsible to changes that are happening. And our numbers of even if we look at our numbers, on a daily basis, they're really quite low. I mean, something below 20 for faculty and staff, and below 80 for students, which is remarkable for us to be at this phase. So we feel very good and appreciative of everything that everybody's done to get us to this point. And then, as we have always done, we will adapt as need be.
You said that there were 22 training students. Are we even at the downtown campus or is that?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got 17, I did bring those numbers. We have 17 undergraduates, 4 graduates, and 1 law student. They're spread out across colleges. I don't want to say more because then you get the numbers are so low, you start identifying people in ways that you don't necessarily want to do. But we've got the student services and Office of General Counsel and graduate education, and all offices sort of alerted to the need to help students so that we can mobilize quickly to be able to do so, to make sure that they're supported. Some of them will need financial support. Others, are worried about their families and need to be able to connect. We don't have any students in Ukraine. We did have 1 student in Russia that we've now moved, that is in transport to another location. So we're always watching to make sure that we protect our students. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Can I just ask? So we heard the answer. Thank you so much, but we didn't hear the question.
The question was, what can we all do for our students and who are they? They're kind of spread out, and we've got all of our various offices on board to help as needed. So what I would say is that if you do hear of a student, feel free to contact the provost's office and we'll direct them to the right office to help them. We learned a lot from the Afghan situation. As we're going to watch as we go, I won't be surprised that there might be requests for being able to help scholars who may also want a placement, and Deb's actually been handling that for the Afghan scholars. So we will remain committed to help in this situation.
Thank you so much. Yes, so we're just getting questions on Zoom about not being able to hear the questions when they're asked. So just FYI.
I'll try and repeat
You can
them.
repeat them.
Yeah, I'll try and repeat them. All right, any further questions from that? All right, let's roll over then to Polytechnic. President Kaisiak, are there any questions there?
No questions, thank you.
All right, thank you. Tempe campus, do you have any questions? And then we'll get over to the Zoom campus after West.
No questions from Tempe.
All right, thank you. West campus, are there any questions?
We have no questions, and I'd like to thank Christine for serving as interim president for a few minutes.
All right, thank you. Yes, thank you, Mary, and thank you, Christine. Maria on Zoom, online, are there any questions that you want to share with us?
Yes, so Senator Naomi Jackson would like to know, are there any updates on guns on the campus issue?
I do know that is, that there is legislation proposed. We haven't heard anything on that. But we're certainly concerned and watching that issue. But I have nothing to report on that.
Thank you. And Phil Vandermeer, he has a question. It's very long, so why don't you unmute Phil and ask it?
Okay, hi Nancy. In President Crow's description to ABOR, he talked about the 5 centers being set up as part of the legislative funded project. 2 of those are already set up, but 3 are not. And I wonder if you could talk about how the purpose of those centers will be defined and how faculty, not just from the narrow focus, but more broadly through the university, can be involved in establishing those. Obviously, it relates to energy and transportation and communications. Clearly, this touches on many different disciplines, and a process like this, it's often hard for faculty to learn about exactly what's going on and how to be involved.
Sure. I will say a little bit, and then I may invite Neil to also jump in. He's from Knowledge Enterprise, has also been very involved in advancing this work. So these are science and technology centers. So the one purpose of them is to be able to engage in very much use-inspired research, informed and done in partnership with industries. And so there is a technology transfer component to it. Rather than pure scholarship, there is this expectation that the research and the activity that is generated from these centers will be very much responsive to the kinds of broader needs of the industries that are involved in the various centers. 2 of them have been launched, and there was a kind of a pitch session where ideas were brought forward. Those are very much based in engineering, as you know. The others will be also launched. And I think there was one question about, are they all going to be engineering focused? And I do think that there will be multiple disciplines involved. And as they get developed, I think, certainly the leadership in those other schools will be pulled in so that they can figure out ways to engage other faculty in those processes. But so that's sort of the high level, bigger picture of where we're at. But Neil, do you want to add to that?
That I think what you said is very accurate. Thanks. We have had, yes, multiple convenings of faculty, and that's really, I think, the way we want to handle this is by continuing to have convenings of faculty as we develop these STCs. And the convenings have been broader than just engineering. I mean, there've been a lot of engineers involved in them, but they're broader than engineering, and we want them to continue to be broader than engineering. So please, as these convenings take place, hopefully people are hearing about them, and we get a broad participation. We've had 70 faculty at some of these convenings, so there's been a quite broad participation. But if our goal is to have broad participation at these convenings.
Okay, are there any further questions on Zoom?
No further questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So as you've noted, Neil Woodbury is one of our guests for today, as well as Tamara Duzer and Andrew Weber. So we've asked Neil if he would come and share with the Senate kind of the latest of COVID, of our policies. And Neil, I should tell you, at the back of my mind is the question whether I can remove my mask. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks very much. I think that is certainly the question on everybody's mind. And I think, as you know, what's happened very recently is that the CDC recommendations have changed. And as Provost Gonzalez said, that is very much something that is being discussed now by leadership. We don't have an answer to your question today, but I think we will arrive at an answer to that fairly quickly. I think what everybody sees right now is generally good news, both in the United States, in Arizona, across most of the world. The numbers of new cases are dropping. we've been extremely fortunate, as Provost Gonzalez pointed out, that our efforts at Arizona State University, and by our, I mean yours, the students, everybody's efforts. This is not something that leadership has done. This is something that faculty, that students have done. And I've been very appreciative to our students. I've told this to our state press and whatnot, that students have been very good at abiding by the rules. And that's been very, very important. The result of all of that has been that we've had very few serious cases of the disease. That's not to say we haven't had any, and anytime you have a serious case of any disease, where it's a bad thing. But we've been very fortunate in that regard through this. And right now, the state is looking pretty good. The numbers of cases in hospitals have been dropping precipitously at this point. Certainly the number of new cases has been dropping precipitously. What we've been doing in terms of watching this and making sure we're on top of it is growing more and more. We're obviously doing the testing that you're all familiar with. You may or may not realize that we sequence every single positive that comes in, so that we know what the sequence of that bug is, and whether it's this, similar or different from others that have been around. We can use that also to understand actually how the organism is transmitting, whether it's transmitting to multiple people or to one person at a time, et cetera. And that helps us to think through policy issues. We last semester also have done a serology sort of survey, which basically means looking at antibodies from people by voluntarily on campus. We will do that again this month and see where sort of the immunology of those who wish to volunteer lies in that regard. And that's also useful for us. So we have many different mechanisms now to try and understand what's going on. We work very closely with the Arizona Department of Health Services on this, back and forth with them all the time. So I guess the bottom line is that right now we have the information we need, and we're in pretty good shape in terms of the way things are looking in the state, and certainly in the way things are looking now at the university. So I'm optimistic for the moment. I have to say that unfortunately, you can't just check a box and say this is done. It isn't. There's a tremendous amount of that virus out there in the world. It's still higher than it was ever before this wave. So if you look at the world cases, so that being the case, that means it's still mutating at an incredible rate because there's so much of it. So we have to accept the fact that there's going to be additional variants and additional waves. We all hope they will be not very severe and not very impactful, but we don't know. So we're just going to keep on top of it. We're going to keep watching and keep looking.
Thank you so much, Neil. Your optimism carries a lot of weight with me, so I appreciate that. Do you have time, by the way, for us to go around to the different campuses to see if there are any questions?
Yeah,
All right, let's go ahead and start downtown. Thank you. Downtown, are there any questions here for Neil Woodbury? Yes, Ann.
So what do we know about the sort of Omicron variant? Not Omicron itself, but sort of I forget what it's called.
Yeah, there's a B12 or something. Like that.
BA2.
Yeah,
So can I?
Its prevalence in Arizona.
Let me just repeat the question for our colleagues online. So Ann Siebert is asking whether, Neil, you could give us an update on what we know about Omicron variant. Is it B12A or you know that
BA2.
Okay,
Yeah.
BA2, terrific, thank you. And it's
So-
present in Arizona.
Right. So BA2 has appeared for some time now. It's been present in Arizona for some time now. About in fact, it was first detected by the Biodesign Institute in Arizona about 4.5 weeks ago now. It currently in Arizona makes up about 3% of the sequences that we're seeing. As I said, we sequence them all, so we know. What we also do, I didn't mention this before, is we go to the hospitals, they give us samples to sequence. So we sequence a lot of their samples as well. The reason for doing this, and then we also sequence from public sites. The reason for doing this in part is we want to compare. And we want to say, are there a lot of BA.2s suddenly appearing in the hospital because it's a really bad bug? And the answer to that is no, there's not. So it doesn't appear in the context of Arizona at the moment that it's driving people to the hospital. The same seems to be true in Denmark, where it's the dominant strain. We're still not seeing, huge groups of people going to the hospital. It also isn't rapidly taking over in Arizona. It's been at about 3% for 3 weeks now. So that's the status. I can't promise you it won't take off. Unfortunately, I don't have that crystal ball, but so far there's not a particular reason to become horribly concerned about it.
All right, thank you. Any further questions from downtown? Let's move over to Polytechnic Campus. President Kaiselka, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Woodbury, for what you and other university leaders are doing to keep campus safe. My question has to do with those who are immunocompromised to a certain degree, whether faculty, staff, or students. And, at this time, I know COVID isn't done with these individuals. And, some live with those who are immunocompromised as well. So as you consider the next steps, what consideration is being given to those individuals as this pandemic continues?
Do you want me to repeat that?
I think that was probably audible for all campuses.
Okay, everybody heard that?
We have- thank you.
So yes, with regard to vulnerable individuals, including immune-compromised individuals, is a really important point. We need to make sure we provide the capability and flexibility for individuals that are immune-compromised or live with immune-compromised and vulnerable individuals. I happen to myself, to take precautions that they need, and I know that's very much something that the president takes quite seriously. So I think the answer is, as we move forward in this, that will be something that will be taken into account.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Kaiselka. Any further questions from the Polytechnic Campus?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. President Hagelin, are there any questions from the Tempe campus?
Yes, we have a question from Senator Barnaby. There's a button at the front.
Hello.
Yes.
I have a question about the sequencing. To my knowledge, you don't make the results of the sequencing available to the people who got tested. We get results whether we're positive or negative, but positive, but we don't get the results of the sequencing. Is that correct? And if so, why? So
that is correct. And in fact, even those of us that see the sequencing results don't know who they came from. So this is part of the issue that we deal with in trying to separate things. So the sequencing is done outside of the covered entity. So in other words, it's de-identified and then goes to sequencing. The only people that know about the sequencing and can connect it back are basically that's usually done by the county or by the state. So we report all the results to the state with an accession number. They then can do that. Now, we do have people in the covered entity within ASU that can, and when there is something that they think is of concern, then they do go typically through the state, and then they or the county, and then they contact an individual. So, but generally speaking, that's the way that works.
But why? I mean, why is it not available to the person who took the test? I mean, is it something you do? Is it a HIPAA thing? Is it a ZIPA thing? Is it some kind of rule?
It's a HIPAA thing in the sense that it's the vast majority of the information. So the test information is all done inside a covered entity. In other words, it's under HIPAA constraint. So that's a direct conversation between doctor and patient type type thing. The sequencing is sent over to a lab in biodesign that is outside of that covered entity, and everything is changed. There is an accession number that follows it, but everything's changed out there. So we don't, I mean, I suppose it physically would be possible to try and move it back in, re-assign it, and then try to tell everybody about it. But that is not, that would be a less level of complication we haven't done. Let's just put it that way.
All right, thank you. Any further questions from the Tempe campus?
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. President Burleson of the West Campus, are there any questions there?
I have no questions. Thank you very much, though.
All right, thank you. Maria, online or Zoom, are there any questions?
Yes, we have several questions. First, we're going to ask Senator Christopher Bang. Please unmute.
Yes, hello. I was just wondering about any updates to the mask mandates, but I think you already answered that.
Yeah, we are actively considering that at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay, Senator,
I will have to leave in just a couple of minutes for a 3:40, just to warn everybody.
thank you. We have 3 more questions. Senator Sherman Dorn.
Thank you. Dr. Woodbury, I appreciate your answer to our colleague from the Poly campus about immunocompromised and other vulnerable individuals. What you didn't say is whether or not you are seeking the opinions of members of the university community who are vulnerable. They're sort of like the motto of the disabilities advocacies movement, nothing about us without us. And if you're not active, if there isn't a university effort to seek those views, that probably would be a really good idea for the long term.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I will bring that to the attention of the group this afternoon.
Thank you so much. We do have time, I think, for one more.
I have 2 more and then we're done. Is that, if that's okay?
Well, Neil has a hard out at 3:40, so let's
3:40,
get to the next
okay.
question. Yeah.
Excellent. So Senator Sang-Mi Lee, please.
No, I already withdrew my question because it was answered and but thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Ava Zelli, Senator Zelli.
Yes, I was just concerned if there were any, if there was any discussion about a possible post-spring break spike with students and faculty just sort of leaving and traveling, and if there's anything that the university is doing or that we can do to prevent an increase in cases once everybody returns to campus after spring break.
That is part of the discussion that we're having in terms of thinking through what the best approach is at this point, and that is being considered. At the moment, I would say that it looks like the level of immunity and the level of the disease in the general public is low compared to what it has been. When we've had problems in the past, it's because we've sent our students out into a world which is much worse than the university, and then they come back. Right now, fortunately, everything seems to be coming down, but this is under discussion. The decision of exactly how to deal with that has not been made.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil, for making time and for answering our questions.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next, we have Tamara Duzer, who's Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, and Andrew Weber, who's Professor and Executive Director. They will be presenting to us today on the efforts to be reaccredited by Arizona State University. If you're not familiar with that work, it is laborious. So thank you, Tamara and Andrew, for taking this on. And you have the time now.
We just want to invite Provost Gonzalez in case she wants to make any opening remarks before Andy kicks us off.
What they're doing is critically important. We talk about the academic core. This is the foundation. And so we have to get this right. We have to have the participation, and it will allow us to continue on. So, and I also want to just thank them for taking this on. It was a very, very arduous and important.
All right, thank you. Hopefully you were able to pick that up. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. My name's Andy Weber, and how we're going to do this, I'm just going to run through a few slides and talk about the exciting topic of accreditation in general, and then I'll turn it over to Vice President Tamara Duza, who will talk a little bit about the university website that's been generated, further information on how we're communicating the process that we're going through. So ASU is up for reaccreditation of its or reaffirmation of its accreditation with the Higher Learning Commission, and will actually be visiting the university on April 24th and 25th of 2023. So that's next April. This is something that requires a lot of preparation and review that's performed by the team that's going to actually visit ASU for those 2 days. And whilst they're here, they'll ask general questions, but most of it will be based upon the information that we provide them. So just a brief background, what is accreditation and why it's important? Primarily, it's a way that universities are able to obtain federal funding from the US Department of Education. But it really is more than that, in the sense that it provides information on the quality of the education that the university provides, and also ensures that the university presents all of its information in a clear and transparent manner and an honest manner to its clients and the community in general. And there are actually 7 accreditation agencies across the United States, of which one of those is the Higher Learning Commission, which is the accrediting agency that we report to. And in order to receive this accreditation by the Higher Learning Commission, there are a number of things that we need to do. Primarily, it's, sorry, let me go back, related to ensuring that we meet the criterion, and there are 5 criteria that the Higher Learning Commission has. Criterion 1 is related to the mission. So Eduardo already talked a little bit about how the university mission is changing in the structure of the university. And in fact, we now have the charter and an enterprise approach to running the university. So all of that will need to be explained, as well as how the university responds to that charter in terms of the makeup of the university itself and how it performs a greater good for the community. Criterion 2 is all related to integrity and ethical and responsible conduct. So that is really in terms of ensuring that the institution acts with integrity in all of its operations. So that really involves a review of our policies for faculty, staff, and students, and how that's presented to the outside community, and how the university acts on those policies. Criterion 3 and 4 are both related to teaching and learning. Criterion 3 covers the quality of the resources and the support that the university provides for its teaching, and Criterion 4 covers the evaluation and improvement aspects, which is all related to assessment and the processes that we go through as far as assessing the quality of our programs. And then Criterion 5 is related to institutional effectiveness. So that's related to resources and planning. So do we have all of the facilities available to ensure that we can deliver the quality of education that we claim to be delivering? So this accreditation with the Higher Learning Commission occurs on a 10-year cycle. Many of you probably remember our last accreditation back in 2012, 2013. And at that time, everything was done in paper. There was a large document that was developed, and all of the evidence that's provided to support how we meet the criteria for accreditation was presented in what's referred to as a resource room. And now all of this is done electronically through a system called an assurance system. And we follow a new pathway that the Higher Learning Commission has developed, which is called, in our case, the Open Pathway. And it consists of a number of different steps. In year 4 of the 10-year cycle, we have to present an insurance argument, which is basically a 35,000 word document that covers basically how the university is meeting the criterion that is laid out by the Higher Learning Commission. There are also, and I'll talk a little bit more about the assurance argument in just a minute. There are a number of other steps that we go through on a regular basis. Sorry, it's jumping around. Including twice during this 10-year cycle, we've had visits from representatives of the Higher Learning Commission to some of our additional locations. So these are sites where the university operates that are not on the Tempe campus. And then annually, we have to provide updates, which is really just updates, particularly on how we meet federal criteria and the university budget to ensure that our operations are effective every year. There is what is referred to as a quality initiative, which is a project that's related to institutional improvement. And that's something that's completed between years 4 and 9 by the university. And I'll talk a little bit about what that initiative is in just a minute. And then in year 10, which is what's coming up in 2023, is the comprehensive evaluation, which includes presenting again the assurance argument and all of the evidence that is related to how we meet those criterion, and also a visit by representatives from the Higher Learning Commission, so-called peer reviewers, who are normally faculty or staff at peer institutions who can certainly go through and evaluate the evidence we provide. And finally, there will be at this year 10 comprehensive evaluation, a component that's referred to as meeting federal compliance. And so that's how we meet all of the federal standards that are laid out as requirements from the Department of Education. So as I mentioned, there are 2 components to this, the assurance argument. So that, again, it consists of 5 chapters, 1 for each of the criterion. And the goal is to provide evidence that's provided in the form of PDFs, is the only way that you can present that evidence as to how the university actually meets the criteria. So we will be providing evidence in the forms of the policies that the university implements as PDFs, and also, for example, sample syllabi, evidence that we are following steps for assessment and improvement of our educational programs. So all of that will be put into this electronic profile that's referred to as the assurance argument and the assurance site. And then just finally, how ASU is actually running this self-study and how it's organized. We have a steering committee that consists of myself, Shelley Potts and Lisa Bortman, who are from the University Office of Education, Evaluation and Educational Improvement. So they are both involved in that process. Pamela Garrett, who works in my office, will be helping with many of the criterion chapters, and Craig Thatcher from the Edson College of Nursing is involved. He was involved in the previous process that the university went through. And Tamara Duser, who is Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, who will be talking a little bit about what the university is doing as far as assembling the committees. And so each member of the steering committee is also involved with organizing 1 or 2 of the criteria. And we've assembled a committee that Tamara will be talking about, or committees for each of those that Tamara will be presenting. along with additional information on our website. And the website is here it's called HLC, and it's under the Provost website. So Tamara, I'll turn it over to you to talk about that next.
Thank you, Andy. So because we are working to maintain a high level of enthusiasm about the HLC accreditation project for the next 14 months while we prepare for April of 2023, we do have a resource here, as Andy mentioned. I want to make sure that we acknowledge the fact that we have over, and if you want to look at all of them, you can, so you can find out who from your unit is represented, but we have over 150 team members that are participating in the accreditation process. So I encourage you to visit the site and find out who from your unit is involved so that you can connect with them. And this site will be updated frequently with additional information so you can see how the assurance argument gets built over time, review it, contribute to it. But as Provost Gonzalez mentioned at the multiple times throughout, and Eduardo has as well, the faculty are at the core of what we do. And so your engagement with the HLC process is incredibly important. So over the course of the next 12 months, you'll be invited to participate in forums that are related to HLC. And as our senators, we just really hope that you'll take the opportunity to engage in the process, provide us with feedback. You'll find that there's the ability to provide anonymous feedback if you want to make sure that certain things, questions or programs are represented in the assurance argument. But this is basically our opportunity to brag about all of the great efforts of the institution over the last 10 years. And so certainly your ideas and engagement are welcome. And we look forward to working on this very important effort. But please do engage, because the site reviewers will want to show, or will want to meet you, talk to you, get your feedback. And so anything you can do to encourage participation. I know you all are incredibly busy, but this is very important. And so we thank you in advance. And that was our goal today, was just to make you aware that this work was underway and that you can engage with us on it. And so with that, we'll take any questions, and very much appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. And I just want to acknowledge, I worked with Barry Ritchie on the 2012 as part of the steering committee. And I can tell you that work is both Herculean and Sisyphean. So thank you for what you're doing. Let's go start here with the downtown campus. Do you have any questions on the reaccreditation? All right, I see no questions here. Let's move on then to the Polytechnic campus.
No questions. Thank you for the information.
All right, thank you. The Tempe campus, do you have any questions?
I actually would just ask that Tamara reiterate the information of where you can find the list of members. I couldn't quite find it on my computer.
Certainly, it's on the HLC website that Andy mentioned, and the link that's in the presentation.
Thank you.
So if we could get a copy of the presentation, we'd be happy to send it out to the senators as well, so we have that information. All right, thank you. Are there any further questions from Tempe? All right, hearing none, let's move over to the West Campus. Are there any questions from the West Campus?
No, thank you. We have no questions.
All right, thank you. Maria, any questions online?
Yes, we have two questions. Senator Wells, can you please unmute?
Yes, I actually have three questions. So generally, is there any expectation about class size or faculty student load in the accreditation, recognizing there might be differences between lower and upper division or classes focused on writing?
I would say the general process with HLC is explaining that you have a policy or a procedure or a way of handling those topics. It's not that there is a prescriptive expectation on what any of those numbers are. Though, as you astutely point out, we do see variability for different types of classes. So we would expect to see that, but there is no sort of benchmark or anything like that related to those types of metrics that comes from HLC.
Great, thank you. And the second one, are the standards for ASU on campus and ASU online identical, or are they different?
They are identical in that they expect that the same standards and everything else is consistent no matter what the mode of delivery of the material is.
Right. Thank you. And my last question is, how does student retention relate to accreditation?
It's very important because it reflects the quality of the institution and the education it provides. So the expectation is that students should be moving through their programs and at least have the ability to progress with their degrees. And so obviously if the students are retained, then that looks better.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, and I will just comment, there is the expectation that we will spend, that the growth of our online degree programs over the course of the last 10 years will be a significant portion of the accreditation visit. So we're expecting to have lots of questions in that area.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any further questions online?
Yes, one more question from Senator Sarah Bowl-Marsich. Please unmute.
My name's Sarah Bowl-Marsich. I had two questions. One is the report available to members of the ASU community? So in other words, could I go look at the 2012-13 report?
I think we just have the most recent assurance argument, which was prepared in 2017 up on the website that we provided a link to. So yes, you can see the most recent report.
Okay. And then my second question was, when you say federal compliance, is it just as it applies to students, or is it every federal law that ASU might be subject to?
So I'm very lucky that I happen to be the chair of that committee, so I can actually answer that question. But it's focused on specific federal compliance rules associated with students. So things like student credit hours, how we handle student complaints, things that are really about eligibility for financial aid. So not the totality of the federal compliance landscape, but really focused on the student experience.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Maria, any further questions online?
No further questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you to you both again, and we look forward to, I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again as this goes forward. So thank you again for your work. Let's move on to item number 8, unfinished business and general orders. We have no unfinished business, so we can begin new business with our first reads to prepare you for the motions that we will be acting on in our next meeting. And as a reminder, these items are for informational purposes only, although senators may certainly seek clarification, and full discussion of these motions is reserved for our next meeting when they come under new reads. So new business, let's go ahead and turn this over to Denise Bodman, Chair of CAPC. Denise.
Thank you, President Pagan. We have only one first read today, and that is motion 2022-35, a request from the College of Integrative Arts and Sciences for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, Associate of Arts in Military Studies. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Denise. If you have any questions or concerns regarding this upcoming proposal, please contact Denise or me before the CAPC meeting on Thursday, March 3rd. Now for second reads, we have several second reads and action items today, beginning with new course proposals that were distributed by email on February 15th. These proposals will be handled in gross. Does anyone wish to remove any of the new course proposals from the list? All right, hearing none, we will vote on these courses. Maria?
Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay, we are launching the poll for new course proposal. It reads, do you approve Senate Motion 2022-33 new course proposals in gross? A for yes, B for no, C to abstain. Okay, we're ending the poll. The motion passes with 95 votes, 95%. Thank you.
All right, thank you. CAPC has reviewed and requested several motions related to curriculum and program changes. These motions are brought to you in gross for your consideration. Back to you, Denise.
Thank you again. I've asked Maria to post these so that you can see them, and we need to read them because that's what we do. Motion 2022-19, request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Historical, Philosophical, and Religious Studies for the disestablishment of a graduate certificate, scholarly publishing. Motion 2022-20, request from the College of Global Futures, School for the Future of Innovation in Society for the establishment of a graduate degree, MS Futures and Design. Motion 2022-21, request from the College of Health Solutions for the name change of an undergraduate degree from BS in Science of Healthcare Delivery to BS in Healthcare Administration and Policy. Motion 2022-22, request from the Ira A. Fulton School of Engineering, School of Engineering for Matter Transport and Energy for the disestablishment of a graduate degree, PSM in Solar Energy, Engineering and Commercialization. Motion 2022-23, request from the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, for Engineering of Matter Transport and Energy for the establishment of a graduate degree, MS Biological Design. Motion 2022-24, request from the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, Division of Teacher Preparation for the establishment of a graduate degree, Master of Education, MED, Early Childhood Education. Motion 2022-25, request from the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, Division of Teacher Preparation for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Bilingual Education and English as a Second Language. Motion 2022-26, request from the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, Division of Teacher Preparation for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Early Childhood Education. Motion 2022-27, request from the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, Division of Teacher Preparation for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Elementary Education. Motion 2022-28, request from the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, Division of Teacher Preparation for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Mild Moderate Special Education. Motion 2022-29, request from the Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions, School of Community Resources and Development for the disestablishment of an undergraduate degree, BS in Community Sports Management. And finally, motion 2022-30, request from the Watts College of Public Service and Community Health Solutions, School of Community Resources and Development for the name change of an undergraduate degree from BS in Parks and Recreation Management to BS in Parks, Recreation, and Sports Management. CAPC has met and we approved all of these proposals. I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Is there a request for removal of any of these motions for further discussion? All right, hearing none, we will now vote on these motions.
Thank you. You should have the CAPC motion in front of you. Do you approve of the CAPC motion in gross as read on April 28, 2022? A for yes, B for no, C abstain. Thank you. Ending the poll. The motion passes with 106 votes, 97%. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we have one other motion. Senator Phil Vandermeer has brought forth a motion amending Senate bylaws. Phil?
As I mentioned last month, in 2008, when the Constitution for a University-wide Senate was adopted, it set degree granting units as the basis for representation in the Senate and set out 3 categories for representation. Units with less than 40 faculty members would have 1 senator. Those with 40 to 100 faculty have 2 senators, and units with over 100 faculty have 3. Since that time, the university has grown tremendously, of course, and has been substantially reorganized. And so it makes sense to revise those categories to provide more equitable representation. This motion would lower the first bar from 40 faculty to 35 and lower the second from 100 to 80. And as you can see from the proposal, this lowers the average ratio of faculty to senators, and it provides a lower difference between the units, while only increasing the size of the Senate from 129 to 141. It will provide more equitable and more accurate representation of faculty.
Thank you so much. Because this motion comes from a committee, a second is not required. Is there any discussion related to this motion? Okay, hearing none, we will now take the vote.
The poll is now open for motion 2022-31. Do you approve of Senate Motion 2022-31, proposed revision of ACDC Policy 112-01, Academic Constitution and Bylaws, Bylaws 4? Couple of more seconds, ending the poll. We have 99 votes. The motion passes with 95%.
Thank you so much. Senator Vandermeer was being quite modest. He is the ASU version of Thomas Jefferson in having drafted the Senate Constitution in 2008. So thank you for your leadership again and fine tuning this work that we have abided by for all these years. So thank you, Phil. So we have no further motions or resolutions, including new business. And so this concludes new business. As noted on the agenda, we do have 4 committee reports, and we will start with the Committee on Committee with Paul Carrese. Paul.
Thank you, Eduardo, and for the Italian pronunciation of my last name. I will say as a note, I'm glad you praised Phil. Some of us might prefer Madison or Hamilton to Jefferson, but that's a minor point for consideration elsewhere. Eduardo has done most of the work for our committee report in that in the Senate dashboard just sent out, he opened with a message that the Committee on Committees asked him to send out, which is that the committee thought we didn't have quite enough nominations from our first process, our first attempt to get senators, university senators, to nominate colleagues for the campus presidencies and the grievance committees. So please note that message that came out in the Senate dashboard. There it is. And please do some work in the remainder of this week and maybe a little bit over spring break to consider colleagues, including self-nominations, talk with colleagues. We set the deadline for filling out the survey for the Tuesday after spring break to give everybody a chance to catch their breath a little bit on Monday. But really, this is the last attempt. These are very important positions. It would be better to have just a few more nominations. We got healthy numbers of nominations for certain positions, not quite enough for others. So we thought we had a little more time and we should try this. So thank you, Eduardo, for the support.
Anche a te, Senatore Carrese. Grazie tante. All right, let's move on then to the Digitally Enhanced Teaching and Learning Ad Hoc Committee, Lisa Campbell-Locker and Penny Dolan. Who wants to take that report?
I'm going to take that. Can you hear me? Let's make sure.
Yes.
Okay, well, this will be brief. The first thing I want to do is, that Lisa and I would like to do is, we will be announcing a workshop that we will be doing in April on academic integrity. And it will be in part important information that all should have on this, plus best practices and sharing of what kind of solutions people have been coming up with to combat this problem with information from classes getting out where it shouldn't. So stay tuned, we will be reporting that. The only other thing I want to mention, in that same dashboard that came out, please take a look at our January Tech Talk. There it is. We are this month featuring Rob Gray, and he's doing a fascinating, and he is, by the way, the associate professor, an undergraduate program chair in human systems engineering here on the Polytechnic campus. And he is doing really interesting work with podcasts. He provides podcasts for his students that help enlarge his regular lectures and what he delivers during the class time. And he says the advantage is the ability to take these podcasts on the go and listen to them at any time. One of the things Tech Talks tries to do is to introduce faculty to solutions they may not know about, including software. And he uses Audacity, which happens to be free. And then another project, software rather, Libsyn. And it is not free, but it is pretty minor cost. If enough faculty at any point are ever using certain software solutions that they find really valuable, we can always approach UTO with asking for a review of the software to see if it could be added to, the regular toolbox. But please do take a look at this. We've got some more interesting people coming up in the pipeline as well for our Tech Talks. And that's it, Eduardo.
All right, thank you so much, Penny. Next, on to Library Liaison Committee, Senator Claudia Villegas Silva. Claudia.
Thank you. Okay, so I have very little to report. We plan to report in a more complete fashion in March, like I said before. We are currently working on two main topics. The first is the overall state of the library's budget, and two, the state of open science, in large part based on President Crow article, We Must Tear Down the Barriers That Impede Scientific Progress. And so those are the principal topics for the year, frankly. If you have any questions or any suggestions, please email me. And if you don't have the article and would like to have a PDF copy, email me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Claudia. I was actually hoping you would compliment me on the Spanish pronunciation of your surname, but all right. Let's move on finally to student faculty policy. Scott Day. Scott.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Student Faculty Policy Committee is working on several things. I just want to give you an update on what we're working on. The first thing is as you know, we get a syllabus template every semester. We're looking at that in light of what's happened over the last 2 years with regards to student basic needs and services to be added in there. And so we're looking at that amongst other things to be added into that. The second thing we're looking at is in tandem with the policy committee, potential changes for the student course evaluations. We have, George Justice and I have requested to be a part of what we believe is a review in the provost office of the student course evaluations. We want to bring two things. We want to make it all inclusive, meaning any biases with regards to race, nationalities, religion, gender, sexual preference, or disabilities. And then secondly, we're taking a proactive approach, meaning that we want to be a part of the decision-making process rather than a reactive. The third thing we're looking at is the multicultural communities of excellence. Obviously, there was an incident that happened last fall, and we want some say from the faculty with regards to what is our real outcome for that. I just so randomly stopped in at the downtown campus on a Thursday during lunch hour. No one there. I talked to the person that was there. And she just mentioned, I wish more people would come. And my immediate reaction to that was, I hope that incident back in last fall has a chilling effect on those things, but we're going to investigate that and take a look at that as well. And while I'm talking about this and thinking about these things, if you have anything that you want to add or suggest, please contact us, and please let your departments know. The fourth thing we're looking at is last year we looked at the academic integrity procedures and found out that there, in fact, isn't an office, but there's officers that communicate together. And what we're looking at is to make sure that throughout all the schools and colleges and university that academic integrity issues and procedures are handled consistent. And then finally, we've been requested from the graduate student government support for their child care initiative, and we're looking into that as well. So those are the things we're looking into. We'll keep you updated.
All right, thank you, Scott, and thank you to all of our committee chairs who reported today. The floor is now open for any issues, concerns, or general questions for our committee work. Okay, hearing none, let's move on then to item number 11, open forum. This is the opportunity for you to bring up any issues, concerns, ask questions, make statements or announcements, or share information to the University Senate. So the open forum is not a debate, but it's an opportunity then to share again or to ask questions. So again, the time is yours to ask or to share any items of information. Let's go around to, I guess, let's just go campus by campus. Is there anything here at the downtown campus? Yes, Senator Young.
I just want to respond to the senator's campus story HB 2447 and the House did come for the committee of the whole. It was tabled. Lobbyists kind of tell us that it's probably going to stay tabled. In the Senate, SB 1123, Wendy Rogers bill, it's still kind of bouncing around. There's some thought it might come to the floor. Looking at history, these things often come to the floor during spring break, trying to suppress student and faculty accreditation. So now is the time to write to the state representatives.
Thank you for that update. Was that, were you able to hear that?
Can you summarize that for us?
I will try. It was taken. If you want to come up here and say that again, you'll do a much better job than my summary. So give us a second. Here's Senator Young.
All right. Two campus carry bills. One came before the committee as a whole, was tabled. The House bill, people seem to believe will stay tabled. The Senate bill is still bouncing around, hasn't come to the floor yet. We don't know where that is. So historically, they've often come to the floor in spring break to try to suppress university participation in the debate. So now's the time to write your senators or representatives if you're interested in seeing it stay away. And the Republican caucus is not united on this. So even if you think your rep won't listen, they may well.
All right, thank you so much for that update. And also thank you for staying abreast of these issues and for sharing that information with us. Anything else for the downtown campus? All right, let's go ahead and move over to the Polytechnic campus. Are there any items, President Kaiselka?
A question for the DETL committee. How do we get information about the tech talks?
Well, it comes out on the dashboard. You mean, how to become a spotlighted faculty member? Is that what you mean?
I didn't know that Rob Gray was giving a presentation in January. So how does that information get out?
He didn't give a presentation. What it is the tech talks are ways that we highlight or spotlight faculty that are doing interesting things with technology. And we have sent several times, we've sent a form around, a Google form that you fill in, and we review, the committee reviews it, and we choose somebody to spotlight for the month. So we can send that form around again. Matter of fact, when I stop talking, I'll see if I can find the link to drop in the chat. But we do have quite a few people who have submitted responses based on that. But so that wasn't a presentation. It was just information. Then we highlight the person.
Okay, that's helpful. I just thought the word talk, I thought there was a presentation.
Oh, no, it's more a play on, I guess, TED Talks, and it's Tech Talk. It's not the S, it should be Tech Talk. So I apologize if that was confusing to anyone.
Makes sense, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. As long as you don't do tech talk on TikTok, I guess we'll be okay. All right. Let's move on then to the Tempe campus. Do we have questions there or comments?
Is this working?
Yes.
Good play on words, Eduardo. No questions from Tempe.
Thank you, Ladam. West Campus, are there any questions or comments to share with the Senate?
No questions from me or others in the room. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Maria, online, I see a hand from Senator Fritz. Do we have other comments or questions as well?
Correct. Senator Fritz, please unmute.
Yes.
Yes, hi. I'm John Fritz. I'm an associate professor in the School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences. I'm also a member of our school's executive board and executive committee, and we're currently rewriting our bylaws. And one question that came up was how we should include voting in our bylaws. And this is voting for committees, this is voting for tenure, and this is voting for lots of different things that happen in the school. And we just noticed that, for example, here in the University Senate, we use iClicker. But for example, class simply uses Zoom polls. And we were wondering if the university was thinking about some kind of more organized election systems that we could use at the school and the college levels.
Something perhaps more uniform. Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah. Especially with,
Okay, so I just motioned over to Vice Provost Clark. There's no discussion of that nature so far. It doesn't mean, not so far, but it doesn't mean there can't be. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I think that's something that's worth looking into. Thank you. Senator Hale.
Hi, I just wanted to mention to everyone that we will be hosting the annual American Indian Studies Association Conference starting Wednesday evening. There will be a reading from a new Navajo author held in conjunction with the Labriola Center, Hayden Library. We were actually supposed to host this year's conference on the Tempe campus, but weeks ago in January decided it was safest to put our conference on Zoom. So it'll be a virtual conference. Everyone is welcome. I can share the link with Maria. But we're really excited for our keynote speaker, who will be Dr. Carletta Chief, who is a Navajo hydrologist and the director of the brand new Indigenous Resilience Institute at the University of Arizona. So everyone is welcome. A lot of our events are open to the public. So I'll be happy to share the link. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that information. I look forward to sharing that link with the rest of the Senate as well. So thank you for that. Maria, are there any further comments or questions from?
Yes, from Senator Graham, Steve Graham, please unmute.
Yes, we had a faculty member who wanted more information about the collaboration between ASU and Tempe for a newly approved family advocacy center that will help victims of crimes and their families. And she wanted to know if students would be involved in it, where it was going to be located, but she doesn't seem to be able to get information on this or know who to ask. And so I was wondering if somebody knows off the top of their head if they would share that information, or if not, I would appreciate if if I could find a way to locate that.
Thank you for that question, Deb. Would you have any information about this center? Okay. It's a family advocacy center. Is that correct, Senator Graham?
Yes, that's what the faculty member said, and it's in a collaboration between Tempe and ASU. And I think she wants to know about student involvement, how it's going to operate. Will that also involve students as victims of crime?
Okay, all right, thank you. We will then discuss and see what information we can find out about this and see if we can share that out. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Good. Maria, are there any other hands raised or comments in the chat?
No, none. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy the link from Senator Hale. Let me make sure that's the right one. And it's on the chat for everyone to view the link.
And one of the things that we've started doing this year as well is that I've been sending out after Senate meetings, 3 or 4 takeaways from the meeting. So we'll see if we can include that information, Senator Hale, in the takeaways that go out to the senators that you can then share with your units. All right, well, it sounds like there is no further business or comments. It looks like all of our business has been completed. So our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again. Have a good spring break.